Black Rifle coffee, baby. Breeding fuel.
All right, Kahl Harmon,
Yes, sir.
Army Marksmanship Unit, came out to Utah to shoot a precision rifle series, and our friend Tom from Alpha Munitions said, "Hey, this got to be a good one to have on the podcast." We know we got a similar contact in one of the guys you work with that used to be in the Scout Sniper with, so we have never talked before sitting down today, so it's always fun to get like the complete cold run on things. But welcome to the show, and I hope you have a good time shooting out at that range out at PRS. Is one of my favorite places in the whole world because that's where we go elk hunting. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it's one of the most pristine elk hunting areas in the country, in my opinion.
I can't imagine. I mean, the shooting there is a phenomenal opportunity. I love that area, the land, like being able to shoot essentially almost 360 degrees. How you do on there, like George does a really, really good job with that place. But if I had a choice between shooting the match and hunting it, I might choose hunting. That's
Right.
that's really cool.
You'll see a few, and we sponsored the match because Hornady always sponsors this one out here, right?
Mhm.
But we when I say we, Black Rifles did one of the stages last year, a couple years ago, and we built a van and painted it like the Scooby-Doo mystery machine. And then we had a 4x4 through the open sliding door, and that was the stage. And then like we put a smoke machine in there. So that was the stage for the PRS.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there'll be anything that unique out there this year, but sure.
No, it's generally like what we call like a field style match. So a lot of natural terrain, kind of shooting positions using the kind of elevation and different wind to their advantages. The match directors out there do a really good job. I've shot it before and I really like it. You know, living in Georgia, it's a treat to come out here and shoot out west. And a lot of our finales are out west, like our national championships and stuff. The world championships were in Colorado this past year. So like if we stay in Georgia in the southeast and we don't expose yourself out west, it's generally a rude awakening. So I try and make it out here as much as I can.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that. And it's interesting because it's cool that you guys, you know, you're not the first active person that I've run into who has a fair amount of flexibility of what they can go shoot within their active capabilities. And you were kind of starting to talk about that a little bit, but
Sure.
What is that availability for you to like go shoot different types of matches all over the country within AMU?
So we have a lot of flexibility. We're very, very fortunate at our job. Our vetting process to get hired is extremely rigorous. We do everything from personality tests, background checks. They kind of look into everything because once you get hired as a full-time competitor, that's your job till you retire. So
this is the greatest job in the world.
Yeah, it's like, you know, people always say that, they're like, man, that's the greatest job in the world. You get paid to shoot. And I was correct. I was like, you don't get paid to shoot, you get paid to win.
Yeah.
Because if you're shooting and not winning, you have a pretty short career.
Yeah.
So as long as you're shooting well, yes, it is. It's one of the greatest jobs in the world. But it's a pretty good vetting process, kind of getting you to that point. So once they do get you to that point, our work has a lot of trust in us. So they trust that we are picking matches and setting ourselves up for success in the manner in which we need to. And the way it works, at least for me, is I'm one of two long-range guys in all of AMU. So for us, it's kind of up to us to assess ourselves, know our weaknesses, know what we need to work on, pick matches, you know, where we need to based off points, you know, training, kind of whatever it is. So as long as our results are desirable and, you know, as long as we're winning and doing what we need to, work is really, really good about giving us leniency to kind of do that.
Yeah. And when you say you're like, you know, you're paid to win.
Yep.
Talk about like, who are you guys competing against? And I'm sure the answer is different when you're going, but what does that kind of plethora of competition look like for you guys?
So to kind of explain that, maybe I should explain a little bit of like why AMU exists, because I think if we explain that, I'll kind of answer that a little bit. So AMU itself has existed for quite a while, right? It was initially comprised to beat the Soviets, you know, in the Olympics, but it has evolved since then. And my title is instructor shooter. So do about 50-50-ish of competing and teaching. So what was noticed is that essentially there was a leapfrogging process that was happening between the civilian and military complexes as far as like proficiency in marksmanship. So like if you look at like the 90s era or late 90s, like the military was pretty on it, right? The snipers were really, really good. And then due to the military's kind of slow nature of being able to evolve military procurement processes of buying stuff, it's a slow moving machine. So as new technology is invented, the military is kind of behind the curve sometimes. And so the civilian sector in like a lot of the early 2000s into like 2010 kind of superseded the military as far as like marksmanship went, right? So a large reason we exist is we compete in the open shooting sports divisions so that we can kind of circumvent that learning curve for a lot of our active duty operators. So we will go to these matches. We compete in the open divisions. We have no restrictions on calibers we use, gear we use, anything, right? And we go and we learn like what's the new techniques, what's the new equipment, what's working, and we'll find stuff that we think is operationally applicable or that guys can take back and use, and we'll teach those guys and kind of help circumvent their learning curve a little bit. A good analogy that was used before, it may have been Browning actually that had used it, but you know, if you look at soccer moms now that have carry pistols, I mean, half of them have red dots and compensators on their pistols now. You know, it's like, you know, your average carry pistol has these, and it's like, well, where did those capabilities come from? They came from the open shooting sports divisions.
Yeah.
Right. So like the open shooting sports really pushes the envelope of like what's possible. So we compete in the open shooting sports to kind of keep up with the curve, so to speak. But the reality of it is that some of the best competition shooters or competitors in the world is in the civilian circuits, because these are guys that are in the industry, that are professional shooters getting paid to shoot for one capacity or another. So that's where we compete in the majority of the time. Now there are some active duty crossover in there. Like there's some operational guys that are still shooting and stuff and that hold their own and do very, very well. But the reality of it is that the best competition in the world, whether that, if I'm speaking for the other teammates I have, USPSA, 3-gun, all of that, it's mostly civilians. So that's mainly who we're competing against.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening or watching the Black Rifle Coffee podcast. Please allow me to take a second to pay the bills and let you know what we've got going on here at Black Rifle, or I could say the best way that you can support us. I hope that you are in the coffee club currently. If you're not, you should be. Every month, we ship fresh roasted coffee directly to you, free of shipping, and you can get in the club, get in a one bagger or one boxer for as little as $15.99 a month. Also included in that subscription is a whole section of the website for partner discounts with over 100 brands within that. Discounts on everything from firearms to protein to outdoors products, you name it. We have partnered with some of the best in the outdoor firearms industries. And if you want something a little bit more, there's always a little bit more layered within the coffee club subscription. And I'm talking about the exclusive coffee subscription, otherwise known as the Evan coffee subscription, because it was something he specifically tailored towards himself, because he wanted to drink different coffees from different countries every single month. And then it gives us an excuse to come up with a whole bunch of different branding ideas and concepts. Last month we did the Army 250th coffee. This month is not tea. And then the next month is just this wild design for the Secret Water Society. So go ahead, get in the club. It's the best way to support the brand. We appreciate everything that you do for us here at Black Rifle Coffee. Now back to the show.
And it's interesting because those guys are all the ones who dedicate their whole entire lives to towards that specific thing, right? When you're in the military, there are so many other things that you have to become a master at in order to do your job to the standard that it needs to be done, right? Mission planning and an assortment of other things and leadership and making sure your guys are taken care of. But these guys, like, they just dedicate their whole entire existence towards shooting. But the open division stuff is interesting too, because, you know, it's kind of like having the Olympics where everything's kind of boxed into standards and there's performance, restrictions when it comes to drug testing, right? That, and then, now they've got the enhanced games where it's just go, do whatever you want to put in your body. And that's interesting because especially from me who, I was in and I shot 308 and 50 cal, and that was the calibers that we use, right? And now it has changed so much, the technology when it comes to ballistics and calibers and everything that's available now and what's being developed. It's a completely different landscape, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's good though, right? Because
Yeah.
we're seeing that a lot of that is getting adopted into the military slowly but surely. And that's good because the reality of it is it's helping people put rounds on target easier and more efficiently. And that's the end state. So it's good. I mean, I love the sport. I think it has a lot to offer. Especially for the active duty guys. I always say you're going to hit a fork in the road as an active duty personnel that goes to your first match. Because you're probably going to get beat by a plumber and a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be kind of an emotional fork in the road.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was humble. I mean, so I shot the PRS down south in Price after shooting the rifle once before that. And
Was that the Nut Crusher?
yeah.
Oh man, that's a hell of a first match.
It was. And one of the other guys who crushed my nuts, only had one eye, just and killing and a couple European women in there, and you're just like, holy shit, it's a whole different land and realm of shooter, but it's so fun to get involved with, and you really see the capability really increase on where I was at versus when I was in. So it's super fun to see how everything is evolving. When it's still the same platform, right? Like it's still the same technology, but the dedication towards like the finer details is making a huge difference across the board when it comes to like what people are capable of.
Big time.
Long range side of things. But backing it up a little bit, kind of tell me what your path was into AMU and kind of layer that on top of, how does anybody, if they're like, I want to shoot competitively for a living in the military, how do they end up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was fortunate. I started my kind of military path in the Marine Corps. So I started out as a machine gunner. Didn't really have much say so. Yeah, because my size, they're like, yeah, you're 31. It's like, yeah, okay.
And when did you get in?
End of 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011. And so I started my path there. Was fortunate enough to get into the Scout Sniper community. Spent a lot of time in the platoons there, and I had some really good seniors that really embraced shooting outside of work hours. So they were big in investing in their craft and stuff. Kind of one of my mentors at the time, John Boobin, he was real big about that. Like, be a professional on and off the clock, like invest in your craft. Like anytime we had the time running tripod drills, dry firing, stuff like that. And then the East Coast world over there, they had a really healthy culture of competition already. So some of the guys, Jordan Davis and some of those guys at the time, right? Like they were competing in PRS when PRS was barely a thing.
Yeah.
So I was really fortunate that when I did start to dive into it, like my first gun, a lot of people start with kind of mediocre setups and work their way in. Like my first gun was a 6.5 by 47 Lapua, and I shot Berger 130 AR hybrids with Vargate, and that's what Jordan told me to buy. And he's like, bullets come out of a yellow box, brass comes out of a blue box, and that's how I started. So I started off with people that put me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think that helped a lot.
Well, it's interesting too, because in my past, so we're a little similar in that we started within a specific secondary MOS, and then ended up in Scout Snipers. But machine gunners are so loyal to their craft. Like I didn't see too many guys who were coming and trying to get into Scout Sniper platoons from being a 31 because they loved their fucking job. So what was the thing that got you to like, oh, I'm gonna go into more of the precision route?
So I grew up out west, grew up hunting out west, and long range shooting. I think increasing your capability was always a big interest. Grew up shooting a lot of archery, and for some reason, like shooting archery, longer ranges and stuff like out west was pretty common. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are deer hunting out west, especially back then. And, shooting deer at 80, 100 yards was fairly normal. And you say that anywhere on the East Coast, and that's taboo. So I think it's kind of like anyone, right? Like just increasing your threat ring and, you know, how far can I actively hit targets? But, and then I think the other side of it, I mean, like what kid growing up didn't want to be a sniper? You know what I mean? Like there's part of that there too. But, no, so I spent a lot of time, there. And then fortunately my Marine Corps career was cut a little bit short. I ended up getting out, this was during the tattoo drawdown. So, yeah, they weren't big fans of that back then. So, cut my Marine Corps career short. I got out on my own terms, though, luckily. Had a little bit of a break in service. I did a little bit of private work, nothing crazy. And then when coming back into the Army at the time, I was competing heavily. So I was shooting a lot, and we were living out of Texas at the time. My wife had a job out there. We were kind of based out of the College Station-ish area, and they have a really, really rich shooting culture. I would still say to this day, it's probably the biggest PRS shooting culture in the country currently. Like if you look at the regional shooting schedule they have, it's unbelievable. Like every weekend within a 3-hour drive, there's a match. And so I got really, really into it at the time. And luckily, between like relationships developed through different people, the regional director at the time, a guy named Prentice Wink, was good friends with a guy, my former boss, Scott Peterson. So Scott Peterson was also a former Marine and was the team chief of the action shooting team on AMU. So they were chopping it up about something unrelated, and was, you know, kind of like, hey, if you ever need anything, man, just let me know. And Scott's like, yeah, actually, like, you know, any decent like active duty guys? We're like, we're looking to hire another long range shooter. And at the time, it was my first year in PRS, but I'd spent a lot of time in that craft, just never in PRS specifically, and, you know, getting a membership and being kind of devoted to it. And so Prentice was like, yeah, actually I do. And so Scott had reached out to me and was like, you know, hey, you want to shoot for a living? And so I was kind of on another path in the Army at the time and had to make some big choices. Like, you know, do I want to continue with trying to go to the soft side of the Army, or do I want to kind of go all in on this? And I knew some people, former Marines, ODA guys, friends of mine that were pretty familiar with AMU, and it was almost unanimous. They said, it's the best kept secret in the U.S. military. They said, if you can get on the team, like, it is probably the best job there. So I went all in. So luckily there was a East Texas crew out there called the Anderson Outlaw Crew. It was run by a guy named Aaron Roberts. He owns Roberts Precision Rifles. And so they were good. They were the best shooters in Texas. And I was like, this is an opportunity that's at my feet. What do I do? And they're like, buy 3 barrels, have them spun up at the same time, make sure they're Bart lines, buy as many 105 burgers as you can afford, and buy a bunch of Varget and shoot Dasher. And that's about it. And like that way, at that point in time, like everything else on it is on me. The gun will shoot, the capabilities there. Yeah. I won't have any questions with equipment. It's all going to be on me. And that's what I did. So I went all in that first year. So 2021 was my first year getting a PRS membership and competing. I won a 2-day national match that year. I ended up being in squad 2. So they rank you in order of succession of national placing. So at that point in time, I was one of the top 20 in the country my first year doing it. So I invested super hard into it, and that was good enough for Scott and the other people at AMU to take a chance on me and hire me. So I took the job and moved down to Georgia and been there ever since. So it's been great. It's been the best job that I've ever had. I love it. The competition side of things is great. I, grew up in a lot of competitive athletics and combat athletics, like a lot of people, and kind of moving on from that, this competitive, sport fills that void. I really do. I really love how it's an individual sport and it's on you, like it's the preparation you put in, the work you put in, like it'll show or it won't. Yeah. And so I really enjoy that side of it. And, the instructing side of it's kind of a whole nother story too. It's good. But, yeah, so that was my first year. And then my first year at AMU was 2022. Kind of took a break there, had some family stuff going on. Really didn't compete much. And then 2023, I went hot after it real hard. And I won the PRS national championship in the series that year. I won the Golden Bullet that year. And it was, some would probably say, fairly premature in my journey to, most people that earn that have put in a lot more time than I had. So I was pretty hell-bent to prove to myself and others that it wasn't a fluke. And Last year, I went after it real hard again, and I came up one short, so I was actually runner-up last year. It sucked a little bit, and I actually lost to my gunsmith. Yeah, I lost to it.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's got to be a bittersweet.
Yes, no, it is. So,
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Ben Gossett, who is also a member at AMU and also a former Marine. Yeah, he's a phenomenal shooter, and he won it last year, and he absolutely deserved it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What about the like selection process to get into AMU? Was there a pretty rigorous testing that you had to go through to make?
Yeah, so most of the time, the way it works is the vetting is kind of on the individual team chiefs. So like there's AMU is broken down into essentially 6 teams. So within the 6 teams, you have the gunsmithing shop or the custom firearm shop, right? So they hand build all the guns. So my barrels and everything are made by Ben Gossett at AMU. Our pistol shooters, their 2011s are hand built by the gunsmiths that we have. And the gunsmiths are recruited the same way we are. So they'll go to the schools in Trinidad or, you know, these other gunsmithing schools and say like, hey, who's your top performers? Hey, are they interested in taking this job? So it's really fortunate. And we also have some civilians, you know, that have been there forever. Bunch of guys with white hair and stuff that really know what they're doing. So it's a really good mix. So, and then we also have our international shooting sports. So we have like a skeet and trap team, like shotgun. You have IR, which is international rifle. So kind of the pellet guns and, you know, rimfire. And then we also have your service rifles. So like your traditional Camp Perry leather jacket type shooters, they shoot service rifle. Then we also have service pistol. Then we also have what's called the instructor training group, which is pretty much a group of, it started out as former regiment 75th guys who are no longer operational, got hurt or for other reasons went to the instructing side of things. And so they're full-time instructors, great group of knowledgeable guys. And then you have the action shooting team, which is what I'm on. So the action shooting team is essentially like PRS or long range. We do a little bit of NRL and some other stuff too. USPSA and 3-gun. So we cover, there's 9 of us on the team and we cover those 3 divisions. Now, as far as the recruiting process, like you were asking, there's team chiefs for all these individual teams that were mentioned. So part of the job of those team chiefs is to keep an eye on, hey, when are people moving? When are we retiring? So we were talking about a mutual friend of ours, right? He's, you know, done his time. He's moving on to greener pastures. So they know when he's getting out. They know when he's retiring. So they're recruiting. So they actually already have hired another kid to take a spot. So that's kind of how it works, is knowing when people are moving on and looking for talent. And best I can tell too, this kid's a stud. And when he shoots with the other guys we have, you know, Aaron Eddings, Jacob Hetherington, some of our other shooters, like I think the kid's going to crush it. So it's really on the team chiefs and kind of doing some talent management and knowing what they're looking for. I would say, like, I'll use this opportunity right now and throw it out to anybody. We are looking to hire a long range shooter here in the near future. I had a good talk with one of our 3-gun shooters about this. So some of the 3-gun and pistols, I would say, is a lot more of a mechanical skill. Like if you're watching the amount of reps they put in to have good neural pathways, to have good reloads, timing, splits, you know, they put in a lot of sweat equity to have the skill that they have. Long range shooting, I would say, maybe isn't that as much as it is technical. It's a lot of, you know, knowing how to work kestrels. You know, a kestrel class could be an entire semester in college, damn near, you know. Reloading, internal ballistics, external, just all the different intricacies of the gun and equipment. It's a lot more technical. And whereas they can get away, you know, our pistol guys or 3-gunners can get away with hiring kind of a young teenage prodigy. Like we hired a guy named John Wydell a couple years ago. 3 weeks after we hired this kid, he goes to 3-gun nationals and crushes it and wins. Like the dude's an absolute freak. Like, love the kid to death. But like, I don't know if we could do that with a long range shooter, because it takes a lot of time and investment in the craft to learn all these technical skills. And you really do have to kind of be obsessive about it. So some of the prior service guys that we have that were operational at times, you know, in a sniper billet or position that shoot, I think that's probably would be our better hire. Because a lot of the times that we do spend instructing and stuff like that, being around those guys and stuff, like they're a very competent group of people that we were generally instructing. So you have to be confident in knowing what you're looking for. So if there's anybody out there that, you know, is doing well in the precision rifle series or NRL or any of the other circuits and is already active duty, preferably in the Army, give us a shout. You can reach us on our social medias. I know we're always looking for guys, but no, it's very, very hard because it's something you can't mass produce.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think, like for Scott hiring me, right, that was a very mutually beneficial relationship. Like, it was a hard spot for them to fill, I'm sure. And, obviously I'm super blessed to have the spot. So it was knowing what I know now, trying to hire somebody to kind of take our spot, it's going to be difficult. But, even if we have someone that has a lot of potential and we can train them, it's coachability, right? Being humble, being coachable. Like we like to say, ego's not your amigo. So if you got,
I like that.
Yeah, if you got a big ego in this sport, it's not going to work well for you. You got to have some confidence in it, but you can't, the moment you think you have this sport figured out, you're probably going to get a big reality check.
Yeah, it's interesting shooting that that nut crusher PRS match, and not just even outside of my own shooting, watching all these other great shooters kind of come through everything, and like you see how difficult some shots that like if I were to describe to you like, hey, this stage is a back and forth. I'm not going to use specific terminology that you would have like in the stage write-up, but so people understand. So like, hey, you're shooting on target A, and we'll say that target's right in front of you, and then you're going to target B that's at a 45-degree offset of that, and then you're going back and forth, and it's only, you're going from 330 yards to 440 yards, we'll say, but you got to go back and forth as quick as possible. It doesn't sound that difficult. But hey, the steel is 3 inches wide by 9 inches long. The winds are swirling between these two areas. So the winds are changing each time you have to go, and you have 90 seconds to do it. Once you see that and you see the complexity of that, it's a completely different type of thing versus what you would assume, like if you were to read this stage on a sheet of paper. And the thing that like hit me, I think, doing this was the problem solving that you have to have in your head as you prepare for the stage is so important. You almost need to be like this creative problem solver, and these, I don't know, you'd say like on average, like you get up to a stage and you got like 5 minutes-ish, 10 minutes-ish to find all the targets, figure out how you're going to do it, and then kind of work through the different positionings, because within all the different PRS stages, you're getting in position like, hey, no, you need to be in the prone here or in the kneeling here, or like in that nut crusher, it was standing offhand, getting in the sitting, standing offhand, which is just super fun. It was a blast, man. But what would you say like kind of makes a good shooter when it comes to like not even just PRS, but like what is your mindset as you're looking at certain people, like, oh, what makes them super capable in terms of being able to take this complex problem, essentially is what it is, and then solve it well?
It's a good question. So I think what we're mainly looking for, right, is, or at least for me, is drive. That drive and willpower and determination. Like you can have maybe some shortcomings and, natural ability or, maybe other things, but if you have the drive and dedication and you put the time in, that can kind of supersede a lot of things. But a big thing is stress management. So if you watch a lot of new shooters versus a seasoned shooter will have a cadence. When you watch them shoot, the way they run the bolt manipulation, their shots, if you almost listen to them shoot with your eyes closed, the cadence is pretty repetitious. It's almost monotonous, regardless of if there's misses or hits. And that's because they have a speed at which they process information and they're used to it. They keep those stress and those nerves at bay. And when you're able to do that, you think a lot more clearly. I'm sure you can relate to this one. If you have like a newer shooter, or say a shooter that's maybe just not a seasoned or gets in a bad spot and they start missing, and it's a miss and a miss, and they have no idea what's going on, what you generally notice with that tempo is those misses, the time between them starts getting faster and faster and faster. It's like they miss. They almost try and shoot their way out of the problem.
Yeah.
And what that is that's panicking, right? They start to panic shoot a little bit. So having the kind of mental fortitude and stress management to slow yourself down, stay forward thinking, kind of think through those problems on the clock. Especially with PRS, there's generally always a logical reason as to like why you missed, like what happened. It's a matter of being able to go through that list really quickly on the clock, stay calm, figure out what it is, and get your hits. Because at the end of the day, hits win. So you gotta. Sometimes the why isn't as important as it's like, well, I don't understand this win switch. I didn't see it. It's like, well, it doesn't matter right now. See the shot, copy and paste, put it back on the target, get your points, and worry about it after. So when we're looking for people that can kind of problem solve like that are intelligence is a big part of that, right? Like, it's no offense to my machine gun brothers, but a lot of the accuracy by volume in our shooting sports doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah.
You got to be methodical and forward thinking.
Yeah. Since you bring that up, what was kind of your what was your favorite volume by fire weapon that you really enjoyed shooting? Like if you had to look back and
No, it's 240.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a line company guy. I spent a little bit of time in CAT, but I wasn't a big weapons company guy. So like the 240, I mean, as far as, I know for a while when they started to do the IRs, the M27 thing, and then tried to push saws over, and there was a little bit of that. And it's like, well, if I'm going to carry a machine gun, I'm going to carry a machine gun. So, I mean, the 240 for what it offered and as reliable as it was, I mean, you had a squad equivalency of firepower in a single weapon system. Like it was, I think it's been a long time since I shot a 240, but it's pretty near and dear.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that answer.
Yeah, so I was going to say,
the capabilities, and also too, the capabilities to have that on patrol with you.
Sure.
Too. Like having a dude next to you.
Yeah.
As you're going out, you're like, it feels good. It feels good
yeah.
when you got a dude next to you that's got 300 rounds of
Oh, yeah.
7.62 that's ready to spit and got the side handle. Would you rock the side handle on it?
The broomstick.
Yeah.
Yeah, the side handle. Yeah, we had one of my first seniors, he was real big on like, you got to carry it the most miserable way possible. So had to earn your broomsticks, no slings, no nothing. And it was, it was, it's all good looking back on it now. Yeah. But I know even like looking into like the Stapletons and stuff, like I know even when those guys would go on patrol and you have the choice between a saw and a 240, it's like, well, if we got to carry it anyways, the weight's almost negligible to an extent and it's like the firepower difference and what you have. I mean, it's the 240 had a long, good career, I think, in the Marine Corps infantry,
Yeah. Well, that was going to be, so where is it? Has the 240 kind of gone by the wayside now?
I don't know. I'm pretty disconnected, I guess, with like line kind of company Marine Corps at this point in my career. I'm pretty fortunate. I do work up with a lot of the guys up at MSOB still. So, and we could probably talk about that in a little bit, kind of the instructing side of things and what we do with that. But work with them quite a bit, but I think it's kind of moved to more kind of lighter weight type systems and stuff. And then I know the next gen weapon system stuff and some of the stuff they're coming out with that. I don't really know what direction kind of belt feds are going to take, but hopefully they have the same reliability as the 240. I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so so you're on the action team.
Yep.
Break that down a little bit more for me as far as like, so you got like kind of your 3-gun and what you're doing, and there's only 9 of you. So
yeah, there's only 9.
How does that what is the interaction between you guys as the action team?
So it's great. If we're in the office, we do a lot of admin work like anybody else, right? Like the dark side of the military, everyone hates talking. Yeah, you're still in the military. So, it's after action reports we do after training or matches, annual training stuff, all of that is still there. It doesn't go away. Like we're still active duty soldiers with a rank and a CAT card and everything. So we still have stuff to keep up on. So if we're in our office, just normal 9 to 5, it generally consists of nonstop banter, as it should. So it's pretty good. And we have a good dynamic of kind of older seasoned guys, that are on their way out of retiring with a lot of experience, and then younger guys that remind you of like a pseudo little brother. So it's real healthy. But as far as like the shooting dynamic and stuff, it's really unique. So it's if I want to learn pistol stuff, for like a little while, there's a couple of days I was working with John, and it's how fortunate are you that, hey, I want to learn a bit of pistol and kind of rehone myself a little bit, and you get to go shoot with one of the best pistol shooters in the country.
Yeah.
And then, hey, you want to do a little bit of pistol carbine type stuff with our 3-gunners. Well, you have your choice of one of 3 guys that are one of the best in the world at their division. So when we do cross training, it's really, really advantageous, But no, the way it's broken down is, so we have USPSA, 3-gun, and then long range. So in our USPSA, we have 3 guys. It was Jacob Hetherington, Aaron Eddings, and then John Browning. John Browning is on his way out and retiring. So they've hired a new kid to take his spot. So they will all shoot different divisions within USPSA. So we're big on like not necessarily stepping on each other's toes, right?
Yeah.
So they'll cover down on each division. 3-guns, the same thing right now. We have 3 3-gunners, again, shooting different divisions. Right now, they're focused a little bit on the shotgun world shoot. So sometimes when we have some of the international events and stuff come up, we'll shift gears a little bit. So they're focusing a lot on that right now, qualifying for the international team. And then long range is just myself and Tyler Payne. And then we have a team chief. So team chief is normally always a pretty accomplished shooter, that was on the team at some point. Our current team chief, he was 75th Ranger for a long time. He's a grandmaster in USPSA Open, like phenomenal shooter. So he's running the team now. So that's kind of his role, kind of being the umbrella administrative things for us, kind of more of a personnel manager. Scott said it well. He's basically like a professional sports team manager. Yeah. You're managing athletes in their individual sports and stuff. And that's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
But it's a unique place.
Yeah. And so you got a couple guys in each of their specific disciplines there. And then I have an assumption that since you guys are kind of dedicating you're dedicating yourself towards shooting and winning, as you said, there is, I'm assuming, a fair large amount of knowledge transfer that you guys are responsible for when it comes to taking what you guys do for your profession and then making sure that knowledge gets over to the guys who are operational and a whole bunch of different capabilities. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So I think I could speak for the whole team when I say this, that the competition part of things, we love it. It's what helps us keep our job. But the instructing side and giving back I think is what keeps us all pretty fulfilled.
Yeah.
Like we all have a big passion for, working with guys that are still operational, that are going things down range and helping them do their job better. Cause it's awesome taking home hardware, winning trophies, like going to world championships. It's awesome, but it's a different level of satisfaction when you know that you taught somebody something that can help save or take a life.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how does that work? Do they put in like information requests that you guys funnel through, or are you kind of like setting up periods of instruction where you're like, hey, I just like kind of had a breakthrough and I want to develop a course of instruction around this, or is it kind of both?
So what we have is we actually have like an official training request. Like we just call it like a TR form. And because we're so small, it's generally kind of like case by case basis. So somebody will either hear about us from word of mouth from somebody else we trained, or a lot of times what happens now is I meet these guys at matches. You meet them at a match, you start chopping it up and talking, and it's like, oh, hey, who you with? And, you know a mutual person or two somewhere. And they're like, man, we'd love to get you guys out and get some training done. And it's like, well, absolutely. Like, give me your email and we'll send you the forms. But the way it works is we have an official training request form that goes through our S3. And we have a lot of civilians that work at our work. We're a little bit unique in that facet. We're pretty civilian heavy at the top, which is good. Keeps continuity from kind of, one command to another. But it'll go through our S3, and we generally are on a by name request. So if they want training from Kahl Harmon or from, Nate Statuitz or whoever on our team, they'll generally ask for that. And the form's pretty self-explanatory, but they'll mention what they want. Normally what happens is we'll talk with them beforehand, kind of lay out some dates, figure out what works, kind of figure out what they're looking for. Sometimes I've had guys hit me up and maybe I can't give them exactly what they're looking for, but maybe somebody else on the team can better, accommodate what they're looking for. Yeah. So we'll help arrange that, but it varies. So a big thing that's kind of taken priority lately is the kind of assault sniper type of shooting and training. So, as you know, like a lot of the shooter spotter days of the sniper world is kind of coming to an end a little bit. A lot of it more is now the shooter, 800 meters and then fast rounds on target, low exposure targets, like getting that done as soon as possible. So I'd say at least to us, the Rangers, 75th Rangers have kind of been segueing that primarily. So we've been working with them, and we'll assist and instruct for the assault sniper course a couple times a year. And there's some other entities that are kind of adopting that as well.
Yeah.
But we're, I like to tell people at least, like we're kind of a customer based, company. So like you tell us what you want and we'll adopt to it. So, sometimes we'll have guys that, they'll say, hey, all we want is tripod work. Like we want to work on tripods. We're like, no problem. We'll go up there 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is. And we'll do nothing other than tripod work.
Yeah.
Single tripod, double tripod. I'm a huge advocate of tripod stuff. I know even in like, the state platoon days, like, the old Manfrottos and hog saddles and stuff. And I mean, it was great. I mean, that really, really was a massive capability to have, but the way tripods have made leaps and bounds, I mean, it's insane. And, when you can show people that, hey, I can build a prone-like position as far as stability is concerned from the standing with these different capabilities and equipment that we have, it only generally takes us a couple times till they're like, okay, like I want to learn. So it's great. And then we'll have other guys that'll hit us up. I had one recently and they said, hey, we just want to do PRS stuff. Just teach us how you shoot competitions and stuff. And because a lot of those guys, I mean, they're super, super high performers, they don't need us to tell them, what's combat applicable and what's not. We'll just show them how we do things and they will kind of sift through, maybe that's a little bit too gamer. That's not something I can do downrange. That's too equipment heavy or whatever. Hey, this is definitely something that I can take back and use. So, that's kind of how it works generally with the training request forms. So it's
That sounds awesome.
it is, man.
I want to live in this world. I really do.
Man, it's I'm super fortunate. I really, really am. And it's interesting too, because I think that, at least to my knowledge, I don't know of anyone that has the perspective we have, because we work with everyone.
Yeah.
Like if you can think of them, we've probably worked with them at some point. And I kind of say that, teaching long range sometimes is it's like going to someone's house and opening up their underwear drawer. Like you kind of like pull back the layers. It's like looking at their dirty laundry.
It's
like
a little personal.
Oh, it can be.
Learn a lot of person. When
And
that.
we're big on kind of peel back the layers and let's just get better at shooting.
Yeah.
Let's put all the ego aside. Let's put all the other BS aside. Let's just get better at shooting.
Yeah.
So, when we set up stages and stuff, sometimes it's a gut check.
Yeah.
It's a gut check. And it's not meant to be derogatory. It's not meant to, to kind of, gaslight people or make them feel bad, but it's meant to show you where you're at. Okay, we have a baseline. Let's move up from there.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you do that, it's revealing. Like, and for some people, I think we've had the talks with some people where they're like, man, I honestly didn't know that that's where I was at. I thought I was better than that. And I'm like, yeah, me too, brother. Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, I get humbled. I'm sure I will get humbled at some point this weekend.
Yeah.
Like it's part of it, but it's how you take that humility and what you do with it that really matters.
Yeah. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, when you talk about assault sniper right now and where it's currently sitting, what weapons platform are you finding is super efficient when it comes to that stuff and then working off a tripod?
A lot. So for the assault sniper stuff, for like quick rapid engagements, especially kind of 800 and N, it's a lot of the gas gun platforms. So we're working with everything from 6 arcs, 6.5 Creeds, 260s, 308s, depending on what entity we're working with. They all kind of have different systems. But honestly, a lot of the old like Knights kind of M110 styled guns, like obviously they're scaled up now. There's newer Knights, some of the Geisleys that they're using. But those like semi-automatic sniper systems are really where you're kind of getting your effective hits, because the reality of it is even if that gun shoots, if it's a decent gas gun and with work ammo and kind of the 3-part system of weapon, ammunition, and shooter, even if that gun can shoot about 2 minutes, like 800 and in, it's effective.
Yeah.
And one thing we're kind of focusing on is time is time. And what I mean by that is, if I were to give someone a bolt gun platform and, you start, 10 meters off a target and I say, hey, you have a target at an unknown distance there, eliminate the target, time starts now. Some of those bolt gun guys are going to be a little bit more methodical. They're going to be slower. They're going to want to range. They're pulling out kestrels. They're doing all types of things. And let's say, by the time that target's eliminated, it's 30 seconds. It's like, well, the guy with the gas gun gets up there and he has some type of rapid engagement technique he's employing, or, he's swagging it to some extent, or using weapon-mounted LRFs now are a big, big deal, right? They give you your ballistic data and everything. And let's say, maybe he doesn't hit on the first shot, but it takes him another follow-up shot or two, but he eliminates that target, but he did it in 15 seconds. It's like, well, was it a one shot, kind of cliche? No, not necessarily, but he still had effective suppression, put the target down half the amount of time.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to focus on with guys, is that the quicker you can put effective rounds on target, time is time. The quicker you can do it, the better. And obviously with like low P and low percentage type targets, it's situation dependent. Like, yeah, maybe they need that higher level of precision at times, but for most of what's been going on like the last 2 decades, the quicker you can do it, the better.
Right. And within that, you said like a lot of guys are running mounted rangefinders within all that.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that technology development over the course of the last decade or so is helping shooters when it comes to time?
It's incredible. It's incredible. It takes a lot of time in the pre-planning process. So like having equipment familiarity, knowing how it works, knowing the troubleshooting. So that's kind of like another part of our job that we like to do, is when we go to these people and we're teaching them and stuff, we like to have our hands on the equipment prior to, and like, man, let's try and run 500 rounds, 1,000 rounds through this. Like, let's see what the quirks are and where the failure points are. That way, when we do help guys out, we can say, hey, X, Y, and Z, this will happen. Like one of the lasers I use, the mounting button on it, the cable on there, like cable management's huge because that connection's terrible.
Yeah.
So it's like, I got some E-tape wrapped around mine. I'm like, hey guys, this is something to look out for. Things like that really help with equipment familiarity. But some of it, going back to kind of the technical side, like we were talking about, making sure your solver's lined out properly, making sure you have the right ballistic data in there. It takes time, but once all those I's are dotted, T's are crossed, I mean, they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like we have a 3-gunner on our team that's really, really good. And he works a lot with, some of the people that we train, and he shot Mammoth this past year. And I was talking with him about it because he was using one of the new weapon mounted LRFs that's pretty.
The Mammoth sniper shells?
Yeah. He was using the Mars. It's one of the Envision Mars.
Did he just get a
lasers.
wild hair up his ass and he wanted to go do that? Or
Yeah, he's so a lot of our shooters, like pistol guys, 3-gun guys, like a lot of them have been to like CIFSIC level 2 courses, like they're sniper qualified, like they're our guys that aren't long range shooters are better long range shooters than most, long range shooters guys. So that we all try and stay pretty well rounded.
Yeah.
But no, they love kind of competing in all different facets. So yeah,
it's so great because the Mammoth sniper, I mean, that's a pretty tough, that's one of the longer like movement portions that you got to do. I think that one's just under 40 miles over a couple days.
Yeah, 3 days, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like when you say that, you're like, you're thinking about those numbers, like it doesn't seem like, but like moving 40 miles over the course of 3 days adds a whole different element to things. So like that's interesting to me because these guys who are so dedicated towards this craft, and they're just like, oh, I want to scoop up this challenge too, even though it's kind of outside what I'm like, quote unquote is my job.
Man, well, it's like cross training, right? Like maybe even like, back in the day, cross training, like, you're so used to your job and knowing how to do your job that when you kind of see the other MOS or they got something, or like assault men or like doing demo, you're like, hey, what's that, man? Like, you're always interested in the stuff you don't have.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for us, is like, for some of us, and I think we're careful about calling it a job, because you don't want to call it a job to the point that you don't enjoy doing it. But like, for some of the pistol guys, that's their job. It's their job to shoot pistol. So when they get to shoot long range or other stuff, like that's their time off. It's fun. That's kind of, so like a lot of us, are like, if we get, you know, some price table pickups or something like that, like we always want the stuff that like we can't get.
Yeah.
So like, you know, the 3-gunner guys get cool 3-gun stuff. They want the long range stuff. The pistol guys want, you know, so we kind of all exchange. So
Yeah.
it's a really good exchange of information for sure.
Yeah.
But no, he had shot mammoth and he used a weapon mounted Lurf basically exclusively for the entire match. And I was talking to him about it, and, you know, it's what we use when we train, and they work very, very well. And having that capability, you know, versus prior to then, right? Like you had like some Vector 21 Bravos and A-Trag, or like early versions of a Kestrel. And so you're having to use one device to give information to another device to pull that information and now put it on your gun. And it was a really long process. Whereas now having that onboard ballistic computer integrated with a laser rangefinder, integrated with the reticle choices that we have, like the trimmer reticles are pretty popular in that realm. You don't need to touch your turrets anymore. So it makes that kind of flash to bang time a lot quicker.
Yeah. And in line with that, the technology development within reticles and glass is quite a bit different from when I was in as well.
Yeah.
When you're looking at an assault course, PRS, NRL, stuff like that, what is your mindset when it comes to kind of guiding people towards the right reticle to use for that specific job? And then also what are you using right now? And are you like of the mindset where you're like, I want one reticle for multiple different things, or are you using different reticles for different situations?
So I'll kind of answer that question in reverse. I'll start kind of with what I use in your last question. So like our job, right, as professionals is to be well-versed in everything. So that when we have people that we're instructing, they ask, hey, Kahl, have you tried this?
Yeah.
Have you tried this? Like, I want to have time on it so that I can give an intelligent response. And even if I don't like it, that's okay. I can tell them, hey, it's not my cup of tea, but it has applicability in X, Y, Z, and I can see why people like it. So for me, it's application-based. For PRS, I shoot zero compromise optics. And the primary reason because of that is the reticle. So I like a very clean reticle. Like when I'm shooting PRS, it's all about seeing as much downrange information as humanly possible. So I don't want a tree. I don't want any of that in my way. I want very clean kind of crosshair type design. Keeps a brighter view because there's less etching on the reticle, etc. So, but at that's a known distance type of situation, right? Like I have a matchbook. It's kind of almost a choreographed type event. So because of that, I don't need the added aid of having a tree or anything like that. Now, when we're teaching, depending on who we're teaching, if we're using people that use trimmer 3 reticles and they're talking in wind dots and mile per hour the whole time, then that's what we're using. We're going to use that stuff so we can speak the same language as them. For kind of all around stuff though, like you were asking, some of the cleaner tree designs are really good. So I'm a big fan of the, like the PR2 reticle that Loophole puts out. I think that is a really good all around reticle for.
That's the one I was using the Nut Crusher.
Yeah, it's awesome. So for like NRL stuff, that's what I use. For a lot of the gas gun teaching, that's what I use. The quarter mil stuff, especially for some of the 308s and stuff, like you're not really making smaller corrections in a quarter or half mil at a time anyways. Kind of has everything you need with not too much that you don't. I think some of the other reticles that early on sold well are kind of becoming antiquated, like some of the H59s, the H58s, where I've heard it described before as like it's just like trying to drive with bugs on your windshield.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so much going on in that reticle that if you're shooting small 6mm bullets or 5.56 or something, and you're just looking for a little ploop, just a little pin drop in a dirt mound 1,000 yards away, having all of that reticle in your eye makes that very difficult. So I like to keep it cleaner for PRS. But for gas gun stuff, I still want that information. You know, I still want those holdovers and stuff.
Cool, right on. So I'm curious. This is a little bit of a personal question, but
Sure.
I'm wondering, like, if you had to tee up for shooters in general, people who are interested in shooting, people who want to be better at shooting, if you had to like say, I don't know, the kind of top 5 books or literature that's had an impact on you, whether that be story driven, talking about like great snipers throughout history, or something more dense within the ballistic side of things, or more of a historical perspective. What are some of the literature that's had an impact on you over the years?
So I'd say probably one of the original ones, right? And you can relate to this, right? I'm sure you were forced to read it too as a young guy, but Hogs in the Shadows, right? Like I remember reading that, and a lot of those stories and stuff, and kind of the mystique behind it. It's just, there's a lot of lineage there, and I think it's important to know it. It's important to have it, that tradition and stuff. Like I'm very happy with where I am. I'm happy with the choices I've made and where I've ended up. And people ask me all the time, do you miss the Marine Corps? I tell them I miss the clowns, not the circus.
Yeah.
I miss my friends, but I don't necessarily miss all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that lineage and heritage is something that, you'll always be proud of. Like I would never have it any other way. So I think some of those historical books like that are super important. As far as like books for PRS, I know there's like Nick Laufenberg and a couple other people have wrote some books that may be a decent start. But I know there's a lot of good podcast literature out there, like a lot. And I'm even surprised. A lot of my good friends have these podcasts. When I listen to them, I'm like, man, you're giving away all the tips and tricks. Like all the secrets are out there. So if somebody was looking to get into it, if they're like me, you got a lot of windshield time. It's hard to read sometimes.
That's
audiobooks, podcasts. So Miles to Matches is one I would highly recommend, guys. Shout out to Francis and Chad. They run that podcast. It's really good. They start at podcast number 1 and they catch up to where they are now. I would have a hard time believing that they don't have a pretty good grasp on things. Now, as far as like the more technical books, it's dry. And when I say dry, I mean like almanac dry. But all of Brian Litz's books are super, super beneficial. I think a lot of times people they get overwhelmed with the Kestrel and not understanding the inputs and stuff. And that book really deep dives into all of them and what those inputs mean, why they exist. I mean, there's nothing that's not covered in that.
Yeah. From what my interaction has been with Brian Litz, if I could say that Einstein quote always rolls through my head. If you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And Brian seems like the guy that is like, oh, this is the big brain on Brad, who's like figured out a way to communicate it so fucking dum-dums like me can understand exactly what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And it's thick.
Yeah,
it's got a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, I will preface it, man. It is, when I say dry, I mean, it's tough to get through, but if you can, there's levels to this, like anything else. Some people are just kind of your weekend warriors. You're going to have fun, camaraderie with friends. I know a lot of guys, kind of veteran community guys, are getting into it because it still has like a little bit of kind of reminders of the old days, and they get to shoot with their friends. That's awesome. You don't necessarily need to invest your whole life into it and overwhelm yourself with it. But the sport is nice because it's never ending.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, if you ever think in this sport that you've learned it all and you're stagnant, you're behind. There's no such thing as stagnant in this sport. You're either current or behind, because everyone else is learning day by day. New technologies are being developed, new bullets are being developed, new updates are happening on electronics. So staying current with this sport is a moving target.
Yep.
And it never stops going forward. So I was working with Brian Morgan recently up in Idaho, and him and I were having a talk about that he was like, it is a full-time job to stay current with what's going on, because whether it's caliber choices, different stuff. I know, like, Tom and I were talking about all the different stuff that they have available in just bullet technology. And it's like, the technology is never going to stop. So if you're not kind of staying up to date with it, you're left behind already.
Yeah. Is there anything tech or in development right now that you're kind of excited about, or you have kind of curiosity about where stuff is going? It just seems so different to me. Like I'm blown away, and like it's really fun to play catch up on stuff. And like see where it's going, and have the optionality to take different things hunting now. It's awesome. Is there anything that really excites you on the forefront that's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so it's already started to come out, but you mentioned it right there. like hunting, right? So the competitive shooting is awesome. But if you were to compare the competitive shooting population to the hunting population, I mean, we're 1%, 1%, right? The hunting population is so much greater. But if you look at the influence that the competitive shooting world has had on the hunting community already, it's evident.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the guns. Look at your average guns that guys are hunting with now. I mean, look at all these gun systems that are coming out with carbon fiber wrap barrels, lighter weight stocks, 1 pound or less triggers. Like all these things are happening that are carryover and some overflow from shooting sports. And I think one of the big ones that we're going to start to see next is the weapon mounted laser rangefinders. So I think Vortex was the first one that kind of broke the ceiling with their Impact 4000, I think it was. But you look at some of the other new ones that are coming out.
SIG's got one coming, right?
They sure do.
Yeah.
And I think, if you look at like even somebody for like my father and my brother, my brother lives up in Montana. He's big time hunter. If I can give him like, he's an archer through and through. Getting him to try and shoot something with a gun is painstaking, like it's
so funny because most people are the opposite of that.
Oh yeah. He would rather go and hunt for 10 days straight in the field with a bow and get skunked than like roll over and use a gun. But there's some tags in other areas where like you got to have a gun. Yeah. And it's like if I can give him, like a good 6.5 PRC, he can pick up some Hornady white box ammo, and I can give him a set of binos where I'm like, hey, lace the target, and with the wind's always going to be the X factor, but like we'll put wind aside for now. He can at least have a vertical solution to that target that's spot on. Like that's incredible. And I think with some of the integration of these weapon mounted laser rangefinders and companies like SIG, there's another company right now I've been playing around with, and it's the Fire 4000s that they have. I mean, it's AB solvers in it. It's, works out to about 1,500 meters so far that I've seen reliably. It's a metal housing, and it costs like $1,500. And it's like, so instead of having that set of binos that we were talking about, what if they have these mounted on their guns on a diving board, and you start looking at the form factor of some of these, like the SIG, it's not big. You're not adding much weight. And it's like, you now are increasing that kind of lethality range of that hunter exponentially by having these different type of assets. And I honestly think it'll take a little while, but I think eventually there'll probably be some restrictions on it.
Yeah.
Like legally, like, if you look at like a lot of states, there's weight restrictions on guns, there's objective size lens restrictions and stuff. Like I'm assuming once some of this stuff catches traction with the hunting community and they realize how easy they just made this, someone's going to pull their reins.
Yeah. I mean, I have to believe that's the case. Cause I mean, you just look at, my wife loves shooting that Garmin, bow sight with the rangefinder
right,
integrated into it. Which I won't touch with a 10-foot pole, but it's just not my style. Well, like that's restricted in certain states already, right? And
is it really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
I think it was restricted here in Utah, and then I think it was Wyoming, Montana was a hard no out of that too. I'd have to double check, but I know for sure a couple of the western states were like hard no on it. And I'm like, so what's the difference between that and having a rangefinder right next to you?
Yeah.
Like what's the difference, right? You're still using the same technology, it's being implemented in a different way. But I think it goes to show you that this stuff is changing so quickly. Like some people aren't sure how to deal with it when it comes to certain regulations on hunting. And like, it may seem to be too much of an aid, but it's kind of the same thing, but different, And
yeah, right.
And so, yeah, it will be interesting to see how all that stuff pans out over the next few years here.
Yeah, there is some of the technology though that I think is like good all the way around, and it's not necessarily giving like an unfair advantage. Like some of the suppressor, like technology that's come out and stuff. I mean, suppressors are smaller, lighter, shorter, and working better. And it's like, you look guys like our kind of father's generation of hunters,
Yeah.
You ask them, they're hearing so bad. And it's, a lot of these hunters too, hunting with muzzle brakes and stuff. It's like, you can't afford not to shoot with your pro if you're hunting with a muzzle brake and a Magnum.
Yeah.
So I think some of the suppressor stuff like that, I think that's great. Hopefully suppressors won't be tax stamped forever. So
yeah. Well, that's on the Big Beautiful Bill too. So you can not touch this with a 10-foot pole if you want, but I'm curious because
Okay.
I think it's probably a pretty close topic to both of us, but the implementation of the Marine Corps getting rid of scout snipers.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all that?
So people ask me like, my time spent in like, state platoons versus my time spent in the Army sniper community and kind of carry over between them and differences and stuff. And, we could talk about that forever, but, and I don't like want this to just all be negative, but I unfortunately noticed one thing across both branches that they had in common and, kind of broke my heart if I'm being honest. They're both equally hated by their commands.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's true, right? Like you look at like, all the like bunch of damn cowboys and all that. It's like, where did it come from? And it's like, they didn't fit the mold and they wanted to be different. So they're ostracized for it.
Yeah.
And it's, you even look at some of the struggles that, some of the guys are going through up at Lejeune, like the operators, can't wear multicam anything anymore. And it's like, I goes back to my comment earlier, I miss the clowns, but not the circus.
Yeah.
I love the Marine Corps, but I think it's still one of the most cannibalistic places I've ever been. They eat their own, and it's sad to see. I think it'll be a regretful decision, but, I know at the time, like a lot of my friends that were school trained that were going through it, they would talk about just essentially how, so many people were protectors. And, you look at some of the failure rates of the schools, and it's like, well, from a bigger level, if you look at the ROI, hey, we put X amount of guys through and we're only getting one person back or two people back every class that are trained. Like, that's not going to last too long. But I guess like, of course it sucks, breaks my heart. But I think that what everyone should do by watching this is learn from the mistakes of others. Like the Army should kind of look at this and say, okay, we're not too far behind potentially. Because, the Army snipers are hated too. And it's like, well, let's not kind of make the same mistakes potentially, and it's, but I understand the crossroad that they're at, they don't want to lower their standards for anybody. And, because of that, it's been put away. But I don't know. It's sad because at least the East Coast, there's such a thick culture over there and it's so good and incredible that, it's not going away. It's just put on standby, I would say.
Yeah.
Because there's I'm fortunate to go up there and work up there once in a while, and I got some really good buddies up there, and they've done some things and they've really embraced some competitive culture up there that's just outstanding. So they if anyone's in the Lejeune area, there's a place called Alliance Outdoors out there. A guy named Lee Wadsworth owns it or runs it. Lee's a great guy. He's an old 8541 and stuff, and what he's done there is he's created this culture of, like whether they're snipers or just grunts or whatever they are. But it's a long range facility. They do club matches and stuff. And I know some of the entities up there, they've even got it where they have the commands on board now. So they're taking work guns and green can ammo and going up there and taking the gov truck and shooting on the weekends and really honing their craft. And like, that's outstanding. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's a part of my job. I think that'll never get old. Like seeing people embrace that side of the culture and like, the first time they shoot competitions and they're like, dude, this is it. Like, I love it. Like, that means so much to me. So the thought that maybe getting more people into that was cut short by the closing of the schoolhouse, like,
Yeah.
It breaks my heart, but I mean, it's, I don't know, man. I think the Marine Corps in a lot of ways, as much as I love it, I think it will always be its own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I
agree. And I think for me too, there's a lot of speculation and guesswork as to the why behind all that. But the thing that bugs me about it the most, I think, is like you see it, I think, in state platoons and the Scout Sniper platoon specifically, like there's a different type of grit in those guys. There's a different mentality that rolls through them. And like, that it's kind of the confidence versus cocky conversation. And that's why I wanted to be a part of it. Right. You saw these guys who took their positions a little bit differently. I became a scout sniper because I had an awesome mentor on my first deployment when I was a 51 and I was in a cat platoon. And I started as a 51, got thrown in cat. And so I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. So I was, as opposed to loving my situation, right? I got, again, Marine Corps in a nutshell. I was like, I think my first lieutenant was a Mustang, and he was 8541 in Fallujah, Silver Star.
Oh, wow.
And like, so he was my first, he was my first fucking officer that I just loved. I was going to say
that's a unicorn.
And we were on the 15th MEU, and he just took me under his wing, and he was like, I think that you should become a sniper. And I was like, you know, I took what this man said I think
you're
law,
right.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to, you know, study on ship the first deployment. And, you know, I looked at him and the way that he conducted himself, not as an officer, as a scout sniper. And that is what bugs me, is that you see the way that these men approach their craft, and the idea that we would lose that within the Marine Corps as an overall capability is what gets me. That's the thing, is that would potentially fade in any way, shape, or form, because
that culture loss.
It's so it's so difficult. It's so fucking hard to be a good sniper that you have to change who you are in order to become good at this task and this profession. And I just hate the idea that we would lose that as a capability within the Marine Corps.
Yeah, it's you were talking about the grit of them. So I think one thing that I'll never forget it. So same guy I was talking about, mentor John Boobin, he had like one of the hardest lines I had ever heard like anyone say. We had a sergeant major who hated us through and through. He actually got forced out because of it. It was pretty high exposure at the time. But he was large part of the reason I moved on to, and he was just getting into us. And of all things, I'll never forget this. It was because we used, for the base coat of our ghillies, instead of using desert like a lot of people did, we were trading with some of the Rangers that we had worked with at the time for their multicams, because it was like a better base layer and stuff, and their tops had the zipper already in them. So it made like a perfect top. And so we were getting chastised for using multicam ghillies, you know, and that obviously didn't go well. And I kind of remember the exchange of words between them. But I remember Boobin shortly saying, like, because he had said, well, if you want to do cool guy things or whatever, you know, why don't you go be a part of that? They have a selection. This is the sergeant major talking to him. Yeah. I remember John looking him straight in the eye, and he said, Sergeant Major, if I wanted to be a Navy fucking SEAL, I would have been. If I wanted to be a Green Beret, I would have been. He said, I wanted to be a scout sniper, and that's why I am one. And I remember just sitting there like, ooh, you know, like that was coming from a guy, like you said, it wasn't cockiness.
Yeah.
He was confident, and he was as tough as they come. And, you know, it's, like you said, it kind of made me lose that culture. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But,
well, I think just using that example is really good to kind of demonstrate some of the differences in what the craft is, right? I was the same way. You got to pick what you made your ghillie out of.
Yeah.
And that, I think that begins the independent mindset thinking that you need in order to be good at that job. It's like, oh, okay, so all of a sudden I have a choice, right? Like, I'm not being issued a ghillie. Yeah. Like, we have to have a personal relationship with what's making us good at our job.
You take pride in it.
Yeah. And I remember I picked the old IR parka.
Oh yeah.
Partly just because I was like, this thing looks awesome, right? But I was like, it made sense to me because it was a little bit longer. It was a little bit more thin material. It had cuffs that had the stretchy material in it. So like, it just made sense to me at the time to make it. But that was really, I remember this moment and opportunity of like, oh no, you have to be different. Like, the thing that they have a problem with is like, no, we have to be different because we have to think about these things. We have to not accept the fact that what we use isn't standard issue from the Marine Corps. We have to make this on our own. And that was the same thing like with a whole bunch of gear, right? Like, why do we nerd out on the tripod situation was because I had to go to the sporting goods store and buy an aluminum tripod that I used to have to past stalking, and the thing would break because we had no money, and we had to figure this stuff out on our own, excluding the Marine Corps. So of course we're going to have a different attitude when it comes to our own capabilities because we're figuring shit out on our own.
Yeah, I had a really good group when I was in the Army, like with the Army sniper community. Like it was like in a reconnaissance squadron, and we had a really good group of guys that actually, literally all of them have moved on. They're all in ODAs now. Great group of young guys.
Surprise.
Yeah, shocker, right? But I remember just the Marine Corps culture of like earning everything. Like, hey, you're going to start with shooting sticks and go find the straightest stick you can and tie it up and bow flash this and like, or coming to live fire ranges. Like, hey, like earning your rounds, so that you can have rounds on a live fire range and just, kind of all that idea. Like there was so much sweat invested into it that you couldn't help but be super prideful. And, there was a little bit of that lost in the Army maybe. But we had a really, really good group of guys that like, I made them earn it and they were all great sports about it. And, I like to think maybe that served as a small part of getting them to where they are today. But even those guys, it's like, when we did receive pushback from commands or this or that, or, hey, you guys all have JPCs or this or that. It's like, well, you have to explain, proper, bust stock to shoulder relationship and getting a cheek weld and why some of these things are anatomically important, but important to marksmanship. And, you look different. So they didn't want to hear it. And it's, it was a tough fight, but, I guess that's part of a leadership role, right? You pick and choose your battles, so like, in garrison, look the part, do what you're supposed to, that way that you can, have a little bit of merit points to get leniency elsewhere. And just that kind of push and pull battle was really, really tough. But then there were the other side of it where you look at just performance, pure performance based, right?
Yeah.
The highest PT average by a landslide in the regiment. You know what I mean? Like all of our guys are PT freaks. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, you can PT, so what? It's like, okay, well, like look at basic, soldiering tasks at the time, because this was in the Army. We had two of our guys that went on to do, we had one soldier and one NCO. They went on to do like soldier and NCO of like, it went up. It was like battalion, regiment, division. Well, anyways, they just kept winning. I like told them to do it. Like, hey, like you're going to do this because, you might get a little bit of award out of it. It would be positive light for the section. It's a good thing to do. And they kept winning till they went up for NCO and soldier of the Army. And I believe one of them won, the other was runner up. So you're looking at like this guy that's like, like E3, E4 with like MSMs.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? And it's like, how can you argue that the attitude and culture that type of craft breeds doesn't just bring excellence everywhere? Like the proof's in the pudding, you know what I mean? And it's like, like it's sad to see it go, but I don't think it'll be forever.
No.
I think it'll come back eventually.
It's too efficient.
Yeah, it is.
Well, once it comes down to everything. Well, yeah, man, it was good to catch up. It was such a trip down memory lane. Before I let you go, what's your setup for this weekend? Where are you?
So I use kind of the heart and soul of my setup. I use a Terminus action. So I use Terminus Zeus, a 3-lug. I've used them for a long time. It's my preference. I use Trigger Tech triggers. They're simple. They work. Barrels kind of depends. We have a bunch of different ones at AMU, but I have an old batch of Hawk Hills I've been using for a while. I really like them, either that or a Bartline. I've actually recently switched over, so this will be the first match. I'm shooting all suppressed now. So I got away from muzzle brakes completely. I think the riding was on the wall there. I think the muzzle brakes cause micro TBIs. I do. I think there's so much overpressure there and stuff that, a couple shots are hunting. I don't think it's a problem, but the volume that I shoot, it's not sustainable. So I
mean, that's not that hard to believe, right? I mean,
no.
When you just scale back, and I mean, we all know it was like to shoot that 50 cal and like.
Do you see that there's articles coming out now, like in the last week or so about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up offline. Yeah. They're talking about that specifically, the 107s with the muzzle brakes and stuff, that double air pro and stuff. It's not enough. It's going through your eyes, nasal cavities. It's like, well, yeah, I bet, you feel punch drunk after.
Yeah. Like the amount of people that would get nosebleeds from that. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, right? Yeah, it's not, and they're just like, oh man, they're like, and like guys brush it off and it's like, it's not okay.
Yeah, no. But then you look at, okay, so that's kind of the higher end, but the multiple smaller end side of that when you're just talking about volume and the repeated effect of that. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, so I've moved to the suppressors. It was kind of I had a kid recently, so I had some downtime to kind of really go through my gear, test it. I went through some different options of the brake suppressors and kind of what worked for me. So I settled on a good option. I'm using the Area 419 Maverick, but I'm using the longer configuration. I like it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see. This will be the first 2 day I've shot with it. I shot it 1 day in South Carolina last weekend with it, and it was fine. But yeah, and then I'm using I use Hawkins rings, so I like the Hawkins one piece. American made guys, they're awesome. It's real sturdy. I'm using zero compromise optics currently. I like that a lot. Chassis, I'm kind of bouncing around. I used MPA the last 2 years. I'm using MDT this weekend, but I don't have any sponsors or affiliations with companies. Like the U.S. Army is my sponsor.
Yeah.
So I'm really fortunate to have that position because I don't have to endorse anything. I use what I think will work for me. Yeah, I'm shooting 6GT still. So it was 6GT is kind of what the unit adopted before I got there. So prior to that, I shot Dasher. I got there and they said, "Hey, you're shooting 6GT." So I said, "Okay." It's grown on me. Like I've learned to make it work. I like it a lot.
What would you say is the difference between the Dasher and the GT?
So the original conception, I think, of the GT made a lot of sense, right? Like George Garner was one of the creators of it, and there's a lot of forward thinking there. Like I think George did a phenomenal job with it. But what I think is most PRS shooters want repeatability and reliability over everything else. Like the days of hot rodded shooting like 3,200 feet per second with 6 mils is long gone, right? They want reliability so that if they shoot for 2 or 3 days consecutively, right? Like, because the PRS now has an international division, right? We have the IPRF. So we have the World Championships every 2 years. And, with the World Championships, you're shooting essentially for a week, kind of on and off a day. But like, you need it to be consistent throughout that entire time. So to achieve that, you need lower pressures, a little bit more kind of tame loads, we'll call it. So at these more tame loads and lower pressures that everyone's shooting, you don't really need much more than a Dasher. So if you look at like case volume optimization of like the actual case fill of powder, some of the BR variants are a little bit more optimized, people would argue. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I shoot 105 Burger hybrids with Varget, and I shoot my gun about 2910 to 2930, and it shoots great. I haven't had any problems. Like I know some people will say there's a compromise with the GT here or there. I might have agreed with that in the beginning, but as much as I've shot with it, I'm sure there's somebody that has, but I don't know of anyone that shot more 6GT than I have at this point. And I'll put it against any other caliber at this point. Like, I mean, it shoots lights out. And it's all great components, right? That's where it comes from, like we pretty much exclusively use alpha brass in it. And it's like, it's when you have consistency like that across the round, like we're super fortunate. We actually have a ballistics department at an AMU. And so those guys there, they work a lot with like, generating new calibers, all types of other stuff. But we kind of work with them, they load my ammo currently. So I'm not, as a part of AMU, right? Like I'm not supposed to load my ammo. So they're doing a lot of that for me. Also load my stuff here or there, for different matches or other things. But like everything I'm shooting this weekend comes from them. And they do a great job. They pick great components. So I think at the end of the day, when people are really getting in the caliber debate, I don't know. I kind of think it's null and void. We were talking about it this week. If I remember, at the last 6 Golden Bullets, like national champions have all been won by 6 mils. So there's some caliber races going on, but I think it's kind of the shooter's what matters more than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So where you at in your PRS journey? What's next for you?
I just gotta keep doing it.
Yeah.
I need to add a layer of consistency. Like I also just had a little one. And so work here has been pretty consistently long hours.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of making sure that I set the time aside to pull away for certain things.
It's huge.
But that's the biggest thing. And I will admit that I need to do more training on the Kestrel.
Yep.
Realizing and understand how important that piece of gear is was one of those big things. You know, I had a baseline
Sure.
knowledge of it, but mastery is going to be a huge part of that to becoming a good PRS shooter. You know,
Yeah.
and I do think that you know, shooting in Utah versus shooting in Texas, where I was, or anywhere else, is a completely vastly different game. And I think mastering wind is like a lot of things. You can't let your skills and consistency fall by the wayside when you do it. You got to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, making sure that, you know, how do you make sure that you're doing that? I have been so into archery over the last few years that I just haven't done as much rifle hunting. I still love it, you know, but I've just I love bow hunting. It's just a different relationship to the experience of hunting, and I really appreciate that. And you know, you always ebb and flow through different activities and whatnot, but I think for me, shooting that PRS match, I need to make sure that I'm diligently setting aside the time to work up to that. So I'm getting training into that, so it's not wasted time when it comes to doing the competition. And then making sure, for me, I feel like I need to incorporate NRL into that too. So you get I feel like you need that juxtaposition of those two things.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get it to the point where, like, if I don't have the end state of taking that and putting food on my table, I feel like I'm not really doing everything that I could be. So it's really putting all that stuff together for me. And then, you know, I'm like, some of the stuff, shooting that PRS match, you're like, you look at all, like, there's some fucking awesome shooters out there, and you don't know what you don't know going into that.
Yeah.
And you look at how everybody runs their gear so different. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck to do anymore. Because like everybody's the way that they conduct themselves. Everybody's doing something different.
Yeah.
And as someone who's been out of it a little bit and then coming into the first PRS match, I'm just like, man, how do you look at all this? You want to try all of it, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you don't know what's going to work best for you.
It's such a
But you
distraction.
didn't realize how many different their options there were with how people, and like, okay, this person's doing it really quick, but I don't really like how, you know,
Sure.
you know, and then there's you know, they've got their range card on, like, next to their scope, right? It says big index card, like, on their scope. Personally, I just hate the idea of that. You know what I mean? So it's like, just, you're flooded with possibility. And the only way I kind of like feel like you need is you just have to be consistent about, you know, you have to be you. Like, you have to.
Yeah. Like you got to pick a setup that, you know, has no shortcomings, and that the responsibility and the burden of missing is completely on you. And at that point, like, you just work on shooting better. Yeah. You know, but yeah, it's, well, I'm excited to see where you end up in your journey there. You know, it's a blast. The archery temptation, I understand. Like, I would talk with my brother about it, that when I first took the job and moved down to Georgia, I took my bow and I pulled my string off. Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I really did. Cause I was like, if I pick this thing up and I start shooting it, I'm probably going to lose my job. Cause I love archery shooting so much. And there's a big Southern culture, especially in Alabama, of like competitive archery shooting. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, that doesn't pay the bills right now. So I pulled my string off. So my brother, he gives me an earful over it, but, no, I understand. But, yeah, man, it was a blast. I really appreciate you guys.
Thanks
and
for
everything.
coming. And hopefully we can get on the range soon, and good luck this weekend. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you at real quick? Where are you at with the overall competition landscape?
So
obviously you're trying to repeat the golden round and everything.
Yeah.
Where are you at with all that?
So I kind of had a slow start to the season. I've only actually shot like 2 scored matches because we had the kid and stuff. And I see some burnout with some buddies that are, you know, kind of talk about that tracer burnout, you know, and so I'm trying to be very proactive about avoiding that. So I needed a good forced break. So the baby leave has changed quite a bit with active duty people. So I took a couple months off. I haven't shot since end of February, I believe. So this will be my first 2-day back. But from now, until the finale. I'm hitting it real hard. So I'm gonna chase it real hard. So I got currently I think I have a W. I have a qualifier win in Idaho, and then I took 4th at MPA. So those are the only 2 matches I've shot so far. So
and you got to do how many? You have to do at least
3. Yeah, 3, like 2 regular season and then 1 qualifier. And then right now we also have like all the qualifications for the World Championships for the IPRF. So that's a big thing, and that's happening every other year. So that's kind of a big thing guys are staying focused on and stuff too. So I competed in the military and law enforcement for that in 2024. I'll continue to do that.
Yeah.
As long as I'm active duty, I think that's where I belong. So I'll continue to do that as well. So there's some qualifiers for that I got targeted as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it'll be good, man. I'm looking forward to it. Looking to give it a hard run this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Black Rifle Coffee, baby. Breeding fuel.